Okay, I just started recording. 1 minute. We found out that you can do emojis in this chat, which is quite cool. So that's quite nice. That's quite cool. All right, okay, we can start. All right, so thanks very much for joining. Do appreciate it very much. And also, if you're a trial user, I appreciate that you join the trial as well. There is something that you guys need to do for Patreon, is if you come to the Patreon website, and you come to the homepage, you come to settings, and then you go to apps. Now, if you can associate your Discord account within Patreon, that would be absolutely amazing. You can see how I've connected my Discord. So if you guys can do that, that would be fantastic. And so that's just like a little precursor to this video, if you can do that. So you just go to the homepage, settings, apps. So when you join, you'll get the spreadsheet if you join the premium tier, and there's lots to it. So one of the questions that is most commonly asked, how do I use the spreadsheet? At a very high level, we want to check the risk appetite, because that sets the precedence for everything. If we're risk on or risk off, it's going to impact your FX. Obviously, the dollar is sensitive to risk on, risk off flows. Likewise with the risky currencies like the Kiwi and the pound. They're currently the strongest sells, where you've got this, the relative safe havens, the Swiss, the USD, and the CAD, I guess you could argue. Aussie doesn't really belong down here, so that's a bit of a skewy thing. So this sets the precedent. So this is why this is on the dashboard, and it's quite high up on the spreadsheet. And now the -8 metric, it tells us for every one person who are long, there's 8 people trying to short. However, we need to keep an eye on this 24-hour difference. If we keep getting increments, that it's going to attack the big picture. So if we go at this momentum, it's going to take 8 days, and we're going to be risk off, because that was a -1. Okay, if tomorrow is another -1, we're going to be -7. If the next day is going to be a -1, we're going to be a -6, and then we'll go towards 0. Once we've gone over 0, we'll be risk off, because that will tell us that the herd are net long. So this is the first thing that I would do, just to check your 24-hour difference. That's the first thing I would do personally, and then we'll know if we're risk on or risk off for the day. Now, secondly, probably this is like the bread and butter. This is like the core of the QuasiDB system. Is that what we want to try and do is identify if something's a buy or a sell at this level, or more of a buy or more of a sell at over the time. So this is time, okay? So if a bubble comes over, it tells us the positioning over time. Now, let's say the pound comes over here. It is not only already a sell because they're long, but if they add to long, it's going to be a greater sell. So let's hypothesize pound's going to do this. USD is going to come over here, or we can say the Swiss franc. It doesn't matter really too much. And let's say the dollar comes over here. So we'll get the pound USD short signal. And we'll get notified of this in Discord from the max bubbles. Okay, so that's the logic there. So we identify something that's already a sell, but is it more of a sell over time? And that's what we see when we see a bubble over here. And likewise, when the bubble's down here and it comes this way, it's just confirming that bias. And I think what might happen is we might get pound coming over here, we might get the dollar over here, and then we'll get the pound USD short. However, what we need to pay attention to are the technicals as well. But this video is just going to be for the spreadsheet. If you want to look at the technicals, there's plenty of stuff in the Discord, and Marco has identified a very key level on the pound USD, and I think it's going to breach some important supply here. I marked this level out as being quite important, so keep an eye on 118.04. Now, obviously, I really want to talk about the spreadsheet, but you do have to bear in mind technicals as well. They're really important, and fundamentals as well. But then we're going to veer away from the spreadsheet. So I want to focus on the spreadsheet primarily, but just keep an eye on that level for the pound USD, especially if we get that signal, which I think we might, because we know what the crowd are like. Now, they're not only wrong, but they're going to add to being wrong over time. So that's an important level. So obviously keep an eye on your technicals. So once you've understood the logic of the bubbles and we've got our trade of the day, let's hypothesize the pound USD is going to be a short, then, we'd have to check the technicals. And I think assuming that we hold below that, it's going to be pretty bearish, and then we're going to continue down. Look at the MAs on the daily, weekly, monthly as well. So technically quite bearish. So you've understood the bubble logic. Then I would personally come to the search tool. Personally, just out of my preference, there was something that I spotted earlier, and everything's lining up for a sell. There's lots of red, that's bearish. We're below monthly pivot, we're below weekly pivot, we're below the daily pivot. We haven't got a 7-day average for some reason. Oh, there's the 7-day average. So we're below that. So it's quite technically bearish. Sentimentally, it's bearish as well. However, the one thing I have noted is the bears break even. They're making a lot of dough. They're up 204 pips on their bearish bets. So that's something that I would be slightly wary of, because usually the retail guys shouldn't be making money. They should be at a loss, and they should be at a loss. These guys are making, it's a good amount of money, 204 pips. Normally they take profit early and they cut the winners. And so this is unusual. So that's something that I would pay attention to. Ideally, you want lots of red on this, but you don't really want a green up here, because usually they shouldn't be making money. So that's a bit of a warning sign. And we have to pay attention to stop loss clusters as well, but that's going to be something that's going on outside the spreadsheet. I just want to talk about the spreadsheet for this Q&A. And then thirdly would be to check your, I think probably the sentiment heat map. So let's say the pound USD did trigger, and we'll say like it triggered here, for example. Now, if they add to their longs over time, it's going to make it a stronger confirmation of a sell, right? So let's say when you wake up, we're here. If they come this way, they're adding to that, that bet, their bullish bet. Now, however, if you wake up and it's here and it goes there, then it means it's less of a sell, because they're shorting it. Now, if we come over here, it's actually going to make it a buy. So the sentiment heat map is very useful. So what you want to do is just try and identify where you are and where's it come from. Obviously, everything is aligned on this axis. If it comes this way, it's a sell. If it comes this way, it's a buy. So the sentiment heat map would be the third thing I would check. And fourthly, I think would be Marco's trend matrix would be something that you'd want to check. This is based on weekly technicals, and he'll populate this on Monday, and I'll try and populate it as soon as I can. It all depends on how busy I am, but we'll update this as and when. And then the failure rate. So pound USD, let's say hypothetically we did get the trigger to sell. What you'd want to do is come to the MyFXbook failure rate and just ensure you had a red cell here that indicates that they're long, and you've got a red cell here indicating that price is below the daily pivot. So that would be a confirmation that they're going to be wrong, right? Normally they've gone long, price fell. So that's what I would do if they're the four things that I would do, and how to use the spreadsheet if we get the pound USD signal. There's lots and lots of other things to talk about, but just contained within the spreadsheet, that's what I would be doing and looking at, and how to utilize it, to a maximum effect. So there are a lot of tabs here that you probably could do with we could cut out potentially. I know some people do use the positions and volumes. However, I put it to the side a little bit. So I don't know if you guys got any questions or anything like that. And I apologize if it was rushed, but they're the four things. So I can recapitulate what the things that I would do is that I would check the dashboard, check the risk. Are we risk on or risk off? We are risk on at the big picture. However, we don't want to see this change. Then I would come to the bubbles, the average bubbles, check your maximum pair of the currency against this, that distance over time. I would then check the search tool. Slightly worried about that. I'd be worried about this if they're making profits. Let's have a look at the euro. They're making profit on that as well. Unusual. That would be normal. They're both losing. That would be fully expected, in that they're in horrendous drawdown, and these guys are horrendous drawdown. And then I would check your done the bubbles, done the search tool. I would check Marco's analysis, of course, and also don't forget you can request charts as well in Discord. And then I'll check the failure rate as well, just to ensure that the two things are aligned. This is sentiment and this is technical. So I don't know if you guys got any questions. If you have, then this is a good time to ask if you have any. Hopefully, this is going to work and you can talk. If you don't have any questions, we can wrap up, I guess, but it would be nice to try and do a Q&A. I think, Brad, are you trying to talk or no? Oh, that's kind of a shame. I don't know if I've set this up correctly. I'm not sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you, Becky.
Okay, hi, my name is Becky.
Hi.
I'm a new follower and just trying to absorb all the information
Yeah,
while also
that's a lot.
working a job, and I'm in the US. So
Yeah.
I guess because I'm in the US and I see your notifications come in, but you guys are in much earlier than
Yeah.
I am. Like the signals that come through, by US or by USD at this. I guess I'm curious, like if they've been going on since 2 o'clock my time, but I'm not actually seeing anything that's coming through until 10 o'clock my time in the morning. Like how valid is that? I guess I just want to try to understand if time difference has anything to do with what's coming through.
That's a good question. It will come when they come, and ideally, you kind of like probably want to try and wake up early if you're in the States, and they would still be valid. But I would probably check your sentiment heat map. So, for example, let's say we had maybe we got the dollar Swiss signal, and let's say, for example, we had the trigger to sell, then you'd want to check your sell, whether or not we're going this way or that way. That's one thing you could do. Say, for example, they had the dollar CAD and it was over here. Now, if they're adding long over time, hopefully you can see that, that would make it more of a sell. So, yes, it would be valid, but if you want to see continuation on that validation, you'd want to see these cells populate. And that would be a stronger sell if they did this. And so that's that. So, Aussie would be a stronger sell.
Right. If it's moving to the right on this,
yeah,
that means that
sell.
The herd is selling and we should buy.
No, the opposite. They're going long, so we should sell.
Is long and we should sell. And when we're actually, in live trading hours, there's going to be green and red on this particular.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So green to us would indicate buy.
Correct. 100% correct. Yeah. I've done it that way so it doesn't confuse anyone. So when we see green, it's buy, and when it's red, it's sell. Because it would make my life a lot easier, because that's the way it makes sense, right? We have to reverse things, don't we? So that's something you guys could do. If you're based in the States and we know you wake up at a certain time and when you had the trigger to buy or sell, just maybe you could check this. And what's cool about the spreadsheet is that it's updating every 15 minutes. So you'll get quite quickly notified of a sentiment shift. And hopefully that's quite clear. So green is to buy and red is to sell. So that was a good question. Any more?
Tool search.
Yeah, the search tool.
So on the search tool,
yeah,
when we use that pie chart down in the bottom left, and I'll be on the same one that you are right now. So 0 JY. And we're seeing that right now the herd is short, is a majority short. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. What we're trying to identify is something over 50%, and then that's when the bias is formed. So you can see how short they are. So price should be coming up, and we can see your your metrics here, your technical metrics were quite strong, and possibly you could argue because the sentiment, they're short, and so price comes up. It might just be as simple as that. And we are also risk on at the big picture. If we come to the dashboard, we have to remember that they are very crowded and they're very short indices. So Friday's massive decline could have been a little bit of a payday for them, and probably to get to their break even. So sentimentally, it makes sense that this would come up. Maybe you could argue fundamentally as well, because we should be risk on at the big picture. But that's that logic there. So I don't know whether or not it's all down to the sentiment, or there's obviously fundamentals in play as well. Obviously they are. And what you find is that this pie chart should correspond to the momentum. And so they're short, so prices come up. However, the last 2 days was like a bit of a capitulation and some resistance. So as you can see the momentum over here. So, and now this would be normal as well, the horrendous drawdown. So we look at the dollar yen. I don't know if you've seen this before. Where are we? Oops, not that one. They're in a horrendous 1,000 pip drawdown. Their break evens at 127.25 and we're at 137.52. So they're in a horrible drawdown. Now you'd think that these guys would get blown up. And so I don't know how much higher it can go before these guys blow them up, because that's horrendous. It's unfathomable how crazy that is. So be slightly wary that these guys are making money, but also do know that these guys are horrendously in drawdown as well. So this is quite a cool little metric that I would use on the search tool. Euro Oz is really skewed as well. 460 pip drawdown. So it's quite scary, isn't it? And you see how long they are. Oh, but then, we see a little bit of a pay here, but you could argue, there's stuff in play like fundamentals and things. And, the ECB on Friday, they're talking about interest rate hikes. So just to add fuel to the fire. So that might move the market as well. So we have to remember that we're not trading in the vacuum. There's all these other things that are going on outside the vacuum. And it'd be ideal if we could trade without all this noise that's going on. But unfortunately, there are things out there that's trying to influence price. And, if the ECB do hike aggressively, and it's going to impact your euro crosses. So there are things to take into account. And it'd be nice if we could just trade in the vacuum. But we can't, unfortunately. And there's all this stuff going on. And it's kind of annoying sometimes. But, it is what it is, I suppose. So any more questions? Because it's nice that you're asking questions. I don't mind at all.
Right now, I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else at all? I'm guessing silence is no. But I've recorded this, and also I made a presentation also just to cover what I covered in a sort of more leisurely style. It's a PowerPoint presentation that I made, and it's just to show you what I would do. And you can go through that PowerPoint presentation at your own leisure as well. It should be quite good. It basically just covered everything I've covered here, but you can just flip through the slides, at your convenience. So I've done that for you, and I made a video on it as well. So you can have the PowerPoint presentation and or the video if you wanted to. So I'm quite disappointed that I didn't get more people to join, but it's one of those things. And I can also do another one whenever you guys want to anyway. So if there's a demand for a Q&A session, I'm happy. I'll do that whenever. And has anyone got any more?
If you have more time, would you mind kind of just talking through the stop loss cluster tab?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's no problems at all. So the SLC is the stop loss cluster. And this gives us our liquidity target. So we were looking at the pound USD, and look at where our stops. It is 117. So right. So we closed at 117.39. So this would be a potential target to exit your shorts, because this is where the retail guys are going to have to exit, and unfortunately for them, they're going to get out a loss. So this could potentially be a place to buy, but you'd want to check your small time frame, for confirmation. So pound USD 117. Now, assuming that we hold this level, we might be okay. Marco is going to have better analysis on this. However, if 117, we could probe it, and it would certainly flush out a lot of people, and then it could be a buy up. Because what is interesting is that the bears are making money. They're making 200 pips in their bearish bet. So that would be unusual in itself. And so we can use these potentially as your targets to exit at a profit, because that's where they're going to get out a loss, and also a place to enter, because that's where they have to exit. So potentially it can be used as a entry, and also can be used as your target. While you guys are here on the Q&A, I need to make you aware that we've got a quasi-DB code. So if you did want to get the SLCs, we've got a promo code for that. If you want to get a huge discount, I think it's 70% off. So probably recommend it, because what happens is I only update this once a day, and of course price fluctuates a hell of a lot during the day. So this might be invalid by the time. Well, it will be invalid by the evening, because these stops should be raided, because this is the liquidity target. So potential candidate for a buy op if you're very careful, or a good place to exit if you're short, because that's where they're going to exit at a huge, horrendous loss. And, I feel sorry for them, but that's just trading, isn't it? So, and also another thing about the SLC tab is that we want things to align. So at that high level, at a static level, we're a sell. At dynamic, it's a sell. So not only is it sell at the big picture, over time it's a sell. So they've made it worse for themselves. So it would indicate that we're going to have a sell-off to the SLC below, and then we can potentially, it might bounce, and especially if the size gets a lot smaller. If we have a massive reduction in size, liquidity done, and it's the lunch, the school bullies have got their lunch money, and then they can go and bully someone else. And unfortunately, that's what happens all the time. And a huge reduction can indicate a reversal. So if we go from 1.63 to 0.63, there won't be many more stops below. And it's like, well, what's the point of pushing price down further? There's not enough liquidity. We'll just bully someone else, and then they'll leave that. And it could be potentially pound USD. It might be a better thing to do is to wait until you get back into this, this demand area, and see if we break above, and whether or not we'll break above. If we don't, that's going to be quite bearish, and then we could come down and retest this. So that level there is 118.80, 75, and obviously 118.04. So a failure to break this, I'm not sure what market would call it, some demand zone, but a failure to break above 118.73 could be quite bearish. So this could technically be a good place to short. But that's how I would use the SLCs personally. And I can see you on there as well. So hopefully that answered the question for you. And it basically targets, essentially, to cut a long answer short.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Anyone else at all? Also, what's quite good about these, this indicator here is I use on TradingView. It's called the DK Fibbo and pivot levels with CPR. So if you need me to share this, I will share it on the trading chat, and I find it's really useful. And this is these boxes that you can see, and they've been very, very useful. And that's how I've drawn that line, is using that particular indicator. So if you've got TradingView, DK, Fibbo, and pivot levels with CPR. And I think maybe Marco put me onto this. Maybe someone did. Someone recommended this to me, and so I've been using it since. And this is quite cool as well. This one, it just gives you a breakdown of moving averages. See, technically we're quite bearish, aren't we? So important level for pound USD, 118.05 and 118.75. And so that's that. So don't forget about the Patreon thing. If you could do that for me, that'd be great. Remember the settings and then apps. So you just come to apps, and then you connect your Discord, and then Patreon will then say hi, and then they can have a shake of hands in Discord, and then Discord will know who you are as well. So that's kind of like an important thing. If you could do that for me, that would be great. So Patreon homepage, settings, apps, and then connect. And that would be awesome, because then it will be like a successful handshake in Discord. So I think that's it. I think, and there are loads and loads of things to talk about, but in the context of this spreadsheet, I think we've covered it. I think there are things else in here that we can probably dispose of. It's quite nice having a family there, and we need the signals and things like that. So does anyone have any questions about Discord at all, or anything? Maybe you've got some questions about that, or perhaps about the max bubbles, or things like of that nature. I can maybe swap it to Discord, change windows. Yeah, we'll try that. I don't know if this is going to work. Go live. Right, so if we come to the signals, so the bubble deviation, that's on the, that gives us the bubble deviation. It's the logic of the strong versus weak, but it doesn't have to be a set distance. This is the maximum distance between the two bubbles. So this is theoretically stronger. And I think we're probably going to be looking to incorporate this more than the old signals. This is the old signals where it has to justify a buy or sell, then it has to justify the technical conditions, and also it's got to satisfy the bubble conditions, where this is just purely strong versus weak. And if we scroll up, like Euro Kiwi would have triggered, but I was so afraid because we had the PAL speech, I didn't activate it. But had we have activated it, it would have done tremendously well. We had the Euro being very extreme and the Kiwi was very extreme. On Friday, the Kiwi was on the right hand side, the Euro was on the left hand side, and we had the max deviation, which resulted in 229 pips. Of course, we wouldn't have captured the entirety of that move, but you could have probably got 100, maybe 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pips of that move. So I think what we might be going forward is using the max bubbles, potentially scrapping the old signals, but we can run them two alongside each other. But I think this has got more potential when you scroll up, and we've got a ridiculously high hit rate, which is quite scary. So I think we might be incorporating this max bubble, and this is daily, and this is also daily, but this is not. This is set to a confined technical and sentimental criteria, but this is just max. So this is the strong versus weak, and this is just whether or not bubble A has moved from bubble B. If so, then we get the trigger. So I think there's more potential in this. Hopefully you guys can see the Discord okay, and that's that. So
actually, there's some people that are having hearing you as well as seeing your screen.
Oh right, can you not see me? Can you not see my screen?
Messaging, but I don't know where they're messaging. They're messaging in another chat or something.
Ah, okay. So what can you see? Can you see Discord now, or?
I can see it. I think it's. But I had to actually take you off of mute in the beginning so that I could see it, so I could hear you, and I had to click on your space so I could see. So not sure if anyone else is having that same issue.
Oh, okay. Well, perhaps we could wrap up, and I can make another Q&A at some other point. So I think what we're trying to do is stream Discord while in Discord, and it's probably confused it a little bit. I think you can stream like a web page, but you might not be able to stream Discord potentially. But I've recorded it anyway, and so you can see what I was referring to anyway. So maybe that'd be useful. But just to say, the max bubbles, we're going to probably use those. So whether or not you can see Discord, I'm not sure, but you can definitely see it in the recording that I've made. So I recommend that we we stop the Q&A now, and then we can maybe resume another Q&A at a different time, unless anyone's got any other questions. But what I'll probably do is try and go back to the web page. Now you should be able to see the spreadsheet with any luck. And so that's that. So does anyone have any more questions at all? It's a good time to ask if you've got anything to query about. So you should see my spreadsheet now, hopefully. Okay. Well, it's 28 minutes, so it was supposed to be half an hour. So I think it's a decent run, and I've recorded it, like I say, so you can always rewatch what I was referring to at the end if you couldn't see my screen. I'm not sure if you could or not. And so that wraps it up then, I think. So is everyone quite happy to close? If so, I'll take your silence as a yes. And then we can close the Q&A. Is that okay with everyone? I guess so. And if you've got any questions, then you know what, you can always contact me anytime, even on the weekends, even in whenever. Just know I'm always here for you guys. And thanks for subscribing as well. And for those people who entered the trial, I thank you for that as well, so that's great. And I'll speak to you guys soon. And have a great weekend, well, for what's left of it. And I'll speak to you guys tomorrow. So have a good one, you guys. Thanks for joining. and I'll speak to you tomorrow. See ya.